When you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. Mark Twain. All right. Welcome to another morning episode of the Liberty Dad podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. I'm your host, DL, America's most objective libertarian. Tuning in live, thank you so much for giving me your time so early. Man, that was a great quote, right? When you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. And it's funny because I actually live by that despite having only seen this quote today, like when I went checking out a quote. Um, so the way that it works for me is I like when I was a kid, I was you might have it might be fair to call me a pathological liar when I was a kid. I would just tell lies just to tell one. Like it wouldn't even be like DL, did you eat a cookie out of the cookie jar? And I'm trying to stay out of trouble. And I'm like, no, while there's like cookie stuff all over my face. So like it wasn't like that. I mean, that too. But I would just come up and be like, just tell you a random story that was complete lie. Just because. I don't really know why. I was a little kid. But as I got older and getting more acquainted with the truth, if you will, one of the things that I realized is that if I started lying to people, I would have to like keep track of those lies and remember what I told people so that I could be consistent in my lies. And so I was like, man, that's a lot of work. I don't want to do that. So instead, I adopted this kind of policy where I was like, I'm just going to tell people the truth, and then I don't have to worry about, you know, this lie or that lie. Now, every great once in a while, if I'm trying to be discreet about something, then maybe I won't bend the truth per se, but I may phrase the answer in a way where I'm kind of like honestly telling you an answer, but trying to not divulge stuff. That's not something I use very often. And probably I'm trying to think, I can't even think of the last time that I actually did something like that. I just don't remember. Probably when I was in my 20s, maybe. I don't know. It's been a while. It's been a while. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting quote for this morning. All right, so what am I doing? I'm doing an AMA, ask me anything kind of a thing. I don't have like a newspaper or something to kind of like show you guys that it's really me and that I'm really here on July 2nd. However, if I answer your questions that are coming in live, then I assume that you'll believe me, right? And so then we can have the proper AMA, like, oh, well, of course, he answered the question that was live. Um, but why am I doing an AMA? Well, I figured number one, I have this new requirement to get more chatters in. And, I could cajole you guys and I could beg and plead and be like, "Come on, guys, talk, talk in the audience." Or I thought, you know what? Today, I woke up and I was just like, man, I just woke up and I was like, I'm not really in the mood to podcast. I'm not really in the mood to do anything. I would rather just go sit down and, you know, take a cup of coffee or a drink or whatever, whatever I'm having, and then sit down and just look outside at the lake. That's what I wanted to do. And I just didn't have the motivation. But I was like, no, no, you have to, like, you're in a program now. You're the man, you know, sort of. And, well, we were talking about crying the other day. If you happen to see that episode, I did an episode, or I think it was over the weekend, on crying, and it was a premium episode, so you probably didn't see it unless you have the premium account. But I did this episode on whether or not men should cry, and like, where was I going with? I don't even know. I don't know. I'm so unprepared. But anyway, I didn't want to do an episode this morning. I'm not gonna lie. But I was like, I wanted to make sure that I still kept the flow going, because sometimes you just don't want to do stuff and you have to figure it out. So I thought, okay, well, you know what? Today would be a good day to do an AMA. I'm not feeling it today. I'm not quite prepared as I normally am. And then also, I need to get the chatters in. So I figured, that'll be a good opportunity. And if the show ends up being 10 minutes, well, then it's a 10-minute show, whatever. Or if you guys are really chatty and you're asking lots of questions and it ends up being an hour show, well, then, hey, great. It was an hour show. So that's where we are. All right, so let me take a look here in the comments and see what we've got going on, and then we'll just wing it today. And I just thought, this would be a good one to kind of just get it out of the way, like this, and then I can be back to my normal self tomorrow. So that's what I'm thinking. All right, so you know what? I'm gonna put the music on. This is our music um for the live chat. So this is what I like to do. All right. So what do we got here? Excuse me. Did I click on it? Hello? Why is it? That's really. Oh my goodness. I cannot. I'm clicking on the chat. Normally I can click on like a little comment and it'll pop up on the screen. Rumble must not be feeling it today either, because there's literally a message at the top. It's like one of those little pop-up dialogue, and it says, "Must be room administrator to pin a message." I Could somebody elevate my privileges so that I can pin a message? Oh man, it's not cooperating. Okay, well, I guess I picked a good or bad day. I guess I'm not sure. So let's see if I can't get any of them. Nope, none of them. Let me see. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I might break the stream, but we'll see. Um, I'm gonna refresh the page and see if that resets things. I think it will be fine with the stream. I don't think I'm gonna lose the stream. But let's do this. Let's see what happens. Okay, so there we are. Oh, that's just beautiful. That By beautiful, I do not mean no. Okay, so I've lost all the chats that were in there. So that was not a wise move. This is maybe I should not have this titled AMA. I should just title it like "Watch Me Fail Repeatedly." Did that work? Hey, it did work though. Okay, so I can at least post my VA lady, posted in there. So okay, there we are. Okay, folks. So a moment ago, I couldn't. I literally would click on the chats and they were not popping up, and it was saying, "Hey, you don't have administrative privileges." So then I just refreshed it, but when I refresh it, I lose all of the prior comments, and I think maybe my screen might have blipped out too. So we should be back. We're good. So my VA lady points out normally when Larry does an AMA, he has a subject matter normally relevant that he will talk about for 10 minutes, then open up to questions. Yes, my subject matter was I wasn't feeling like podcasting today. And so I'm kind of winging it. It's not very strong subject matter. Not gonna lie. Uh, this is a very interesting question. What made you move to Florida? Uh, my wife, who was at the time my fiance. So here's the story. uh, we were living in Charlotte. We started dating. Then we started talking about, we're gonna do this. We're gonna live together forever, forever. If she's listening, never getting rid of me. Make my eyes look a little creepy. Just kidding. And then she was working for the railroad for CSX, and she got a new position that brought her down to Jacksonville. And initially, we were like, all right, well, I was going to go to school and get some further education in software development. I was actually going to go and get a computer science degree. And I had not enrolled yet. And after like a month or two, she was like, yeah, I'm not really digging this whole long distance relationship. And so I was like, okay, well, let's fix that. And so then I said, well, how about I just move down to Florida? And then just, that's basically how it went. And so then I moved down, and I was still trying to pursue this path of web developer, but instead of going to school, because I think Charlotte had a fairly nice college when it came to computer science. Also, that's where I had a huge community of people that were software developers that I was connecting with. So that was also a good reason to go to school there, because then I would have the support of all these people. If I ran and, if I started struggling with something, I could, get some support from some peers and whatnot. And so I ended up shifting gears and saying, all right, well, I'll just move down to Florida with you. And it was weird. The company that I was working for is a fastener company, and I was working on a team where we basically dealt with processes and whatnot. So you can kind of think of like I was doing work similar to an industrial engineer, but I was also building tools for them to automate things. And I had come up with this insane web application idea that I was trying to pitch to them. And I was like, hey, I'll simultaneously study and build this. And they were like, well, we don't have this setup. Like we're not set up to have somebody as a developer like that. And there would be nobody for you to even answer to except for maybe the president. And that doesn't make sense. So they were like, how about we split it? Like, you can work on it, part of the time, but then you also do some of the other job, that you've been doing. And I was like, no, I really want to do this full time. So I decided I'll just move down to Jacksonville and I'll take a year off, and then I will just study on my own, connect with the community there, which I did. And I came down here and I connected with the Ruby community. I got involved in Ruby programming. That's the language. And great community. That's where I actually really started, I guess, public speaking, is through that community, because they were like, hey, why don't you give a talk? And I'm like, you guys are all super duper brilliant. Some of you guys have been doing this for like years and years and years. What is it that I'm going to be teaching you? And they're like, yeah, that's not really the point. The point is that, you develop your ability to publicly speak. And at the same time, it helps you because you're learning something and you're learning how to communicate it to other people. So therefore, you are actually, reinforcing the things that you're learning. And, by the way, we don't know everything. So you never know. You might stumble across something that we don't know. So it was a great experience. And I actually led that group for a while. And then I moved on just because, life changes and whatnot. But so, yeah, that's what made me move down to Jacksonville was, I was chasing a girl, classic story. Guy finds girl, guy chases girl, guy gets girl, right? So all you incels out there, I don't know that there's any in my audience, but if you happen to be tuning in and you're an incel and you're like, woe is me, it just can't be done, blah, 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 get a hold of yourself. All right, let's see. That should be enough time to have accumulated some more questions in the chat. So let's take a look and see what you guys are up to. Let's see. Yeah, Rumbles Eat Pete says, I'm back, leaving another comment. Thank you. Thank you. And I did see that you had commented prior to me doing a refresh. And I just don't remember what it was. So I apologize for that. But I appreciate it, guys. So yeah, that's what we've got. Let's see what else in here. Hopefully that chatter stuck with the glitch with Rumble. Maybe DL can show the screen that tallies the chatters and other requirements. I could probably put that up on the screen. Give me a second. Let me do a thing or two here. Let me just adjust it so. But yeah, I can put it up on the screen so you guys can see what I have to look at on the regular. So give me a second while I'll keep talking. You keep listening. Keep throwing me some questions in the chat, whatnot, and I will make this happen here in just a second. So let me turn that off. All right. So we're gonna go here, and so I'm doing some things in the background, trying to talk it through. Blah blah blah. Let's see here. All right. Let's see. Nope. I don't want. Okay. Goodness. Oh, yeah, we're almost there. There we go. Let's see here. Almost. All right. So I'm gonna be able to get it up on the screen here. So sorry about that. I know I was a little quiet. All right. So I'm just doing this kind of on the fly here, and so I will make me a little bit smaller so that you guys can see better see what we've got here. So you can see that there are four there are four bars that go from the left to the right there. And the bottom one, I'll start with the top, I guess. The top one is hours streamed. So that's like, what are the total number of hours that you streamed this month? I have to have 30. And so I've got 0.9 out of 30 as of this morning. And then not including this current stream. And then hours watched this month. So this is where you guys come into play. So the audience. And so there's 7.8 out of 200 hours. And then you can see that the chatters, as of yesterday, five unique people had chatted and made a comment, and I have to have 20 by the end of the month. So that's kind of like why I was like, oh, I'm not feeling like doing a podcast episode, but I got a man up. And, I also have this new requirement of chatters because this chatters is new this month. It was not something that I had to do or worry about last month. And so I was like, oh, this would be a great time for an AMA. So let's do that. And then the last one is Rumble Premium. So if you're like, hey, Rumble Premium, what does that mean? Well, if you pay, if you have a Rumble Premium account, which for you, the viewer, just means you get fewer ads, I believe. I'm not sure if it's fewer or zero, but it's one of the two. And so when I stream in Rumble Premium, which I have to do 5 hours of, and that can contribute to the 30 hours total. When I do that, you can only see it if you have a paid subscription. And I actually have a few of those. And I'm going to, so like the one I was just talking about earlier, where I did an episode on dads crying. I think it was Saturday. I saw there was a lot of conversation about, men, I said dads crying. I meant husbands crying at their wedding. And I was just like, I don't really care. Like you can, if that's how you want to express love for your wife and your family, is to shed some tears, at a particular moment. Like we are talking about your wedding, which in theory is only going to happen once. So I'm not going to make a big fuss out of, oh my God, you cried at this once in a lifetime event, hopefully once in a lifetime event. No, I'm not going to bust your balls on that, and then I just kind of pointed out like, hey, if you're being bullied by online influencer guys about how you should express your emotion, and that's called being a man, perhaps not, right? Like, isn't part of being a man self-direction? Like, I'll do what I want. If I want to shed a tear, then I will. And I don't really care what other men think of me. Like, so how about that, man? So that was that episode. And then I also did a 2.5 hour stream on Sunday night. And that was, I'm going through Zoran Mamdami's platform, but I'll be releasing that on Sunday. So yeah, this is the screen that we've got here, and so you can see all the metrics that I have. And so I just literally look at this every day, sometimes several times a day, to see where I am, and then I can adjust and say, okay, I'm a little behind on hours, so I need to catch up. Or, hey guys, I'm a little short on watch hours. Can you go back and watch a couple of extra episodes, stuff like that. So this is what I got. That's what I have to look at. So all right, let's see what else you guys got here. Um, let's see. Let's see. Do. Yes, yes. So it doesn't tally the chatters until the show ends. Correct. Yeah, all the tallying comes after the fact, right? So you've got like with once the show's over, probably within a half an hour, I think all the metrics will update. So it's usually within about a half an hour or so. So there's that. Let's see here. DL Rumble. Peters. Okay. So Rumble Seat Pete is time surfing alien on YouTube. Okay, fair enough. Cool. I appreciate it. So appreciate it, Pete. So appreciate that. AMA against medical advice. I'm not sure I follow what you mean by that. I'm definitely not giving medical advice, that's for sure. So eat your greens. That's about as far as I'll go. You know, like I always cry at weddings. Like I don't. So it's funny because a lot of the people that were defending crying, like there were dudes that like, yeah, I cried at my wedding, and then other guys would be like, do you drink soy too, and nonsense like that. And it's funny because I probably was one of the very few people that don't cry at weddings and didn't cry at my own wedding, and was still defending guys. And I was like, well, look, I'm like, I have cried in public before. I think the last time was the vice chair, Marcus Reeder, passed away here in Duval County, and I was asked to give some comments at his wake. I definitely cried there. That was a little rough, and it's not like him and I were super duper best friends, but we had, we done a lot of work together in the party. And so, we were pretty good friends. And, I went and visited him in the hospital repeatedly, because he was in the hospital for various things. And so I just kept visiting him. And, it's funny, I like took pictures like the last time I was in the hospital with him, I literally had to wear a gown and gloves and a mask. I was like all decked out. You would have thought I was doing surgery on him, but no, I had to wear all this stuff. And I got a picture. And this was during the time when everybody online was all like, oh, people are still wearing masks. Ha, 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 you guys are losers. And I was like, well, here I am wearing a mask. And I was like, so whatever. So see what I mean? Like, as a man, I do what I want. I wear a mask if I think it's appropriate. I will cry if I think it's appropriate. And I will stand against every single man out there that wants to, chortle and be like, oh, I can't believe you cry. You're not a real man. Like, okay, well, come and get this man card yourself. How about that? Let's see. My VA lady says, FYI, after C++, I changed my college degree from computers to business. I can understand that. C++, I have never done, but it is what we would call a lower level language. So that's like, my understanding is that there's more complexity to it because it's lower level. So there are more things that you can do, more access that you have to the hardware. So in some sense, it's a little bit more challenging. That's my understanding. I could be wrong about that. So no, well, you know what? I take it back. Is that right? C++? No, maybe that's not. Maybe I'm thinking of. I might be thinking of something else. It's been a minute. It's been a while. I know that I do higher level programming languages like Ruby and whatnot. Visual Basic and okay, Basic is a bit old, but I don't use that anymore. But anyway, okay, so let's see. I'm stoked about a guest that's going to be on Liberty Dad next week at a special time. I have an update to send after the show about that. Yes. So I don't generally do guests on the show, but I'm gonna, I'm reaching out to somebody, and that should be fun for next week. You'll get the details probably Monday, maybe this week if we're really lucky. We'll see. Yeah, that's going to be fun. And if you know of a guest, like an interesting guest that's relevant to the show or whatever, or something, things that I talk about, then yeah, just let me know, and I'll, we'll see about making that happen from time to time. But that should be fun. There were some other guests that I was trying to get on, and it just fell through, and so I was like, oh, that's a bummer. So, in fact, I don't even know if I told you guys. I I was on Facebook and I saw a news article about a lawsuit that somebody had lost, and I believe the lawsuit was here in Jacksonville. They have made it so you have to be 21 to be a stripper, and I look at it and I say, well, I think their reasoning was we're good. This is going to help fight trafficking, and I was like, well, how many people who are of age are being trafficked? Actually, I mean, if you want to say there's trafficking going on, for underage people, then I would believe you. But they're also probably not going to be in the strip clubs, I would assume, considering that it's a legal business and that legal businesses, at least the front facing portion of it, um, tends to be, abide by the law. So my kind of thinking was, it doesn't make sense that just by raising the age, suddenly you're going to make a real big dent in the problem of trafficking. But that's the law that they passed, and somebody challenged it and they lost. I don't know the details of that. And so I saw this news article, and then there was a woman in there, and she was like, I've been reaching out to you guys, talking to the news outlet. She was like, forever, about abuse that happens in the strip clubs. And then if girls try to report it, then they basically get bullied out of reporting it. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And I was like, well, if the news media won't cover it, I will. So I just kind of, said, hey, would you be interested in coming on my show? And then we had some back and forths in DM, and then it just kind of fell through. And maybe I can reach out again and see if we can't get that, to come to fruition. But the reason isn't like, I know it's like weird to say that, because on one hand you're like, well, DL, are you really just bringing a stripper on, because you care about civil liberties? Yes, actually, because while if I had a daughter, I would think I failed if she grew up to go dance on a pole. At the end of the day, if I did have a daughter that was a dancer, stripper, I would at least not want her to get assaulted, right? And I at least want to punish people who do, or punish people who contribute to it or try to cover it up. Because, like, it's one thing to say, I don't like your life choices. It's another thing to say, okay, well, because I don't like your life choices, I'm going to turn my head and look away when somebody's literally physically assaulting you. That's not acceptable. And I will totally shine the light on that. I feel like I can totally hold two competing, somewhat competing ideas in mind. Hey, not a good idea to be a stripper, but if you are, you shouldn't get beat up. I don't even know if that's even in conflict. So that's just, now that I think about it, I am going to reach out and just try one more time. It was my fault because I reached out, and then the only way that we were sending a message was through Facebook, but it was weird because the DM was for my Liberty Dad account, which I can only DM through the Business Suite app, which I never use. I literally only use it if I have to answer a message from my Liberty Dad account on Facebook. Like if I go to Facebook, it's very difficult, and I try to click on the messages, and it's really like I have to go through some weird direction to get there. So basically, my only access is on my phone, and because I don't use that app, it very quickly becomes a situation where I just kind of miss messages and whatnot. So, but I try not to. So maybe I'll try to do that. All right, let's see. Let's see. Oh yes, I did see that. The article about Dr. Knox, the woman accused of falsely accusing parents of abuse. Yes. I think she's been in multiple states. She's getting fired for a hostile work environment. Her license needs to be stripped. And never where's the rest of that? Never allowed around kids again. She was in her jacks children's arena area. Yes, I did see that just this morning. I didn't really read too much of the details, but apparently she created a hostile work environment. She would say racist things and other nasty stuff on the job. So, and she's getting fired. Yes, and hopefully, maybe this will be the last time that she gets fired, because hopefully nobody will rehire her. Because my understanding is that she is very, very loose when it comes to accusing parents of abuse with specific cases. And I believe Spike Cohen shined a light on her specifically through his organization, You Are the Power, which seeks to fight back like government and other entities that are taking advantage of people. So, and him and I were actually talking about having a podcast where maybe he discussed it. But I think that story, I think what ended up happening is between the time that we started talking about it and the time that, or did we? Maybe we did. Because didn't I have him on? I might have to. But I think it fell through only by virtue of the story resolved before we could make a show. I think something like that. But anyway, yes, they've been working on her for quite a while. All right, so I think that's good. I think 30 minutes is good. I don't really feel like I'm doing a whole, like super in depth. I'm trying not to ramble. It's basically what it is, and I think that's where I am right now. Like there's not a lot of questions going on. That's cool. So we're gonna call it a day, folks, and then I will be back fresh tomorrow, so that we can carry on. I do owe you another 47 weekly, so we'll do that tomorrow. I also want to talk about alligator Alcatraz. I got some thoughts on that. So look forward to those. Maybe I'll combine them tomorrow. I'll do a 47 update tomorrow and then follow that with alligator Alcatraz. So maybe that's what I'll do. Yes. Yeah. My VA lady says you had him on, but I think we need a Spike Cohen. You Are the Power 2.0. I'll reach out to Brian. Cool. Sounds good to me. All right, folks. Well, with that, I'm just going to go ahead and call it a day. Thanks for tuning in with me today. Thanks for chatting it up, joining Rumble. If you're watching and you've been quiet, and you happen to be watching on Rumble specifically, please just get yourself an account and then join in with that account, and then just say hi. Or you can throw a question in about whatever topic that I'm talking about, or you can just suggest a topic and say, hey, you know what? I like your in-depth stuff. I'd be really interested in hearing about this particular topic, and from, how a libertarian might address that. So, whatever you want, like just, you communicate with me, and then I will do my best to make sure that I deliver a show that you feel good about having watched. But with that, I'm going to head on out for the day, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this episode informative and inspiring. Be sure to catch me Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. for an informed discussion on politics and culture. Make sure that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, or if you prefer my Rumble channel, you can go to youtube.libertydad.com, or you can go to rumble.libertydad.com. While you are there, let me know how I'm doing by leaving me a comment. You can also become part of the community by heading over to libertydad.locals.com. Remember, if you're a champion of liberty, your business is people and your product is liberty. I want you to have a great week. Catch you next time. But for now, I'm out.